Greetings, Star Wars fans. My name is John Edward Lee, and I'm here with another universe-expanding books and toys. Taking a break from the animated series to do a series about an episode about one of my favorite writers. So we'll get to that in just a moment. First off, if you're watching this the day it comes out, happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with all of you. It is May 4th as I'm recording this, and I actually wanted to save this one to do on May 4th because it really represents one of my favorite eras. I've mentioned it in my videos probably every time, the 90s. A very special artist to me who I think is just as good and just as influential to how I feel about Star Wars as Ralph McQuarrie is. The reason I bring this up is I recently acquired something pretty special through a live sale through Order 66 Toys. I talk about them a lot. They're a great company. But one of the things I got was a signed Dave Dorman print on some very thick paper. It's very nice condition. This is an amazing print, and of course, that's Dave Dorman's style. He is particularly good at capturing the characters from the film. I'll show you plenty of examples of that in just a second. This is also a signed edition, so really cool. Very excited about this. I have to go frame shopping because this will certainly go up on the wall. I plan to redo my library soon, so one of the things I'm going to do is expand the library and add some art, toys, a helmet that's Captain Cardinals to sort of expand it, make it less like a traditional stacked library, more like a museum. Of course, I like to have my vintage guys there, but I digress. We're here to talk about Dave Dorman, who was the face of the 90s Star Wars. He did covers for books, comic books, video game stuff, just everywhere. He was all over things. He was big enough that he got an art book about his art specifically. And of course, that's again what I was talking about. The way that he captures the characters, it's like they're just right out of the movie. Drew Struzan, however you say that, he's just as good at capturing the characters, but because it's Star Wars and it's got this, I don't know, there's almost like the grit that comes with Star Wars is present in his art, as well as the color and the characterization. And like I said, he's extremely influential to me. He came to Star Wars through a couple ways. He was mostly known for doing comic book art for them, and although he didn't do all these comic books, you know, there's some of the big bad guys from the early Dark Horse Comics series that he worked on. Not all of them. He didn't work on Heir to the Empire or Jedi Academy, but definitely Dark Empire. But anyways, as I was saying, he is a comic book artist that Dark Horse used a lot. He did a lot of work besides Star Wars on Aliens stuff for Dark Horse. And of course, he's just as good at capturing these monsters as he was capturing the human characters and alien characters from Star Wars. This series of books is a really amazing panel to panel. There's 4 of them as far as I know. They have done 2 for Star Wars about the Dark Horse issues. There's one for Buffy the Vampire Slayer as well. So if any of you Buffy fans are out there, that's a good one. Lots of really great art, lots of good capturing of the characters from that show. So he did a couple things, like I said, not just stuff like comic book art, but he did art for things like the Dark Forces novella. These were really interesting. This is the 3rd one based on the Jedi Knight game, which was a sequel to Dark Forces. He did all the art, and one of the things that's really great about him is he was able to capture or create original characters. I don't know enough about his style, probably based on models, but they have a life of their own because they just look, and they look the same throughout it. Through every single picture of it, Kyle Katarn looks like Kyle Katarn. There is plenty. This is what this is. This is a novella that has, you know, a story and then these great illustrations to let you know what you're supposed to see. And of course, Dave Dorman is an amazing artist for that. And just, I mean, this was like one of the first times I ever saw like multiple lightsabers. And I'll show you my actual first time here in a bit when we get to the comic books. Another thing he did as far as the books goes is he did the covers for the Young Jedi Knights books. Now I have the science fiction book club omnibuses, I don't know what you call them, collections, whatever. But each of these carries the art from the books. And again, look how well he's captured Han there, Lando, of course, creating Jason and Jaina. And then they look like that throughout uniform throughout the entire series. There they are again with some of our favorite bounty hunters, IG-88 and Boba Fett, as well as Jason and Jaina down there at the bottom. Lobaka, Chewbacca's Force-sensitive nephew, who was their best friend. And of course, the final one. Actually, I may have done these out of order, but there they are. There's Luke in that outfit. I've seen him in that outfit before. Very iconic to the New Jedi Order. Very, very, very good stuff. Those are like sort of 5th grade age books, but they're very short, sweet, and I'm a big Jason and Jaina fan. And of course, Anakin comes in to the scene as well. So I really enjoyed that series. But first and foremost, as much as I love books, I've been a comic book guy since the beginning of my collection. So he really cut his teeth in Star Wars as far as stories with Dark Empire. This is actually a later issue that came out, which is a handbook. I can never not share those. I really, really love those handbooks. You can see the young Emperor, the clone Emperor, as well as the old Emperor, the main characters from the original film, and then, of course, the hologram coming out of the holocron. I think this might have been the origin of the holocron with the Dark Empire series. That's a more modern issue. There's the first. And first, I want to make a side comment. Here's the thing about Dark Horse Comics. This was $3 when it came out in like 1990, early, whatever, 1991 and 1992. It's held up so well. They use this hard card stock. $3 was expensive back then. I think comic books are $4 today, the Marvel ones. So in 30 years, it's only gone up $1. But I do think this is a higher quality comic book. The pages are amazing. Unlike the original Marvel series, which is hard to read because of the way it's printed. These, they put all that extra money, and Dark Horse is great at that, into the durability and the longevity of the issues. This is one of my absolute favorites. I've showed this before, I'm sure. Leia shrinking from her dark side turned brother Luke. I love Dark Luke. I love even more that he came back from the darkness. There is a great image of the Emperor clone and the old Emperor because he ages really fast, so you see them both. A powerful image of Leia. She's pregnant here with Anakin Solo, so it's amazing that she was even fighting. Or that might have happened. Yeah, I think she has Anakin at the end of either Dark Empire or Dark Empire 2. No, it's the third one, Empire's End, which isn't as fun. One of my favorite Boba Fett images, Chewbacca coming up behind him to rip his helmet off and put his jetpack on. This series, or Dark Empire 1, this is Dark Empire 2, the sequel, was the first time we ever found out Boba Fett had survived. So I remember being in a Suncoast motion picture company store, which I eventually worked at for 7.5 years, reading the graphic novel as it came out, and I got to the point where Boba Fett showed up, and I gasped so loud that all the customers around me turned as if something had happened and they needed to call an ambulance or something, and I was just reading Star Wars. I was so excited to find out Boba Fett had survived, and of course he has a rich history well beyond that, which I assume he now will in the new canon. One more final one for Dark Empire. Just a great image of Luke and the gang with Lando and Leia and Han, the droid and Chewbacca. There's that outfit I was talking about. Dave Dorman likes putting him in that outfit. I agree. I think it looks like very Jedi and very, you know, that new Jedi look that Luke was going for with all the black. I always liked that look. Of course, on the heels of that, they quickly came out with Tales of the Jedi, which is about 4,000 years before the original movies. More ancient times. Not ancient, they still have starships and stuff, but as I mentioned earlier on, I had not been used to seeing a bunch of lightsabers all in the same image. This, every single lightsaber, I remember picking it up and going, oh man, more than 2 lightsabers on the screen or on the image at the same time. That's insane. And of course, I like the way the outfits work, because they look old and Star Warsy at the same time. He did a bunch of Tales of the Jedi I mean, this looks like it fell out of like a classical, you know, like Renaissance painting. Naomi Sunrider there, who becomes a Jedi after her Jedi husband is killed and has to carry a child and, you know, become a new hero, even though she was never intended to be up until that point. I could talk about this series all day. It's by far one of my favorites. Look how well he captured. That's not Jabba the Hutt, of course. That's an older Hutt in the, 4,000 years before. But I mean, you can tell the influence there. He looks exactly like Jabba. And then, of course, some of the main characters there for one last ride in the Freedom Nat Uprising. After this, another artist took over, but that was common with some of the series. But that's a really great image of just the main Jedi in battle. He did the first 4 issues of the X-Wing Rogue Squadron series. And this is an unmistakable likeness of Wedge Antilles. Again, I can't hammer that point down enough, how well he captures the images of those actors. It's just, I mean, completely recognizable. Of course, he's good at ships, and that's no question there. I like his stuff almost seems like painted miniatures. And actually, when I go paint miniatures myself, this is kind of my reference material because I think it looks, you know, just otherworldly almost. Not quite live action, not quite animated. Somewhere in between. Great facial expressions, explosion. Look at that TIE fighter exploding. You can clearly tell what's going on there. Really a master. And then the last one he did, could not find a more iconic Imperial image right there. His third big series is Crimson Empire. Crimson Empire, this is again one of the handbooks. I just really like them, which basically they would release them afterwards. They would just like almost a glossary of the character settings and stuff. So if you've never gotten into it, you can sort of get yourself into it. But there's the Crimson Empire handbook. The images here are just so amazing. I mean, this has been the cover of a book about Dark Horse Comics. It's just so good. I mean, it's just, there's a pulpiness to it as well as a, you know, heroism that just blends with Star Wars so well, even though none of these characters have ever been on film. And there's, of course, there's Crimson Empire 3. I've just gotten a couple from each one because showing all of you every issue cover would just take way too long. In fact, sometimes I feel like I don't hold those images up enough. So 1997 was a weird time for Star Wars because they brought out the Star Wars Special Edition where they added a bunch of extra stuff to it, which a lot of it remains in Star Wars to this day. But one of the things they did is they always kept reprinting the original Marvel Comics adaptation, but they did a new one for the Special Edition so they could put in some of those new scenes. And this is it. I don't know where Krypton Comics is, and I don't know if this bag originally came with this issue, but if it did, thank you, Krypton Comics. $4 is a good price for a comic book from 1997 that was originally only $3. But, I mean, the covers just capture the movie, the images of the characters just perfectly. Even that Jabba the Hutt, you can clearly tell it's the special edition Jabba the Hutt. I mean, just such good stuff. Yularen there before he was even really popular, and in Clone Wars. And then, of course, you can, you know, a Death Star trench run, and then the Rebel Command. Just so good. Before I get into any more comic books, I want to go through some of the toys that came out with it. Not with this. I would say that these toys came out separately of the Dave Dorman art, but because it's so influential, it influenced the toys themselves. First up is Kyle Katarn. I mean, he had an image in the, you know, the video game as well, but I'm just so used to seeing him in those Dark Forces Jedi Knight books that this is what I think of when I think of Kyle Katarn. There were some Dark Empire stuff that came out. Some of it was based on the art in the comic book, but some of it definitely rings of the influence of Dave Dorman's covers. Leia in that long robe with different color lightsaber than she has in that cover, but still, this is one of my favorite figures just because it's Jedi Leia. This isn't a particularly expensive set, but I keep them in these shelves because I have the whole set, and the Expanded Universe stuff is my favorite. There's the Clone Emperor right there. I mean, see, there's a really good example of what the art in the comic book looked like. But he does very much look influenced by the Dave Dorman covers. And then my favorite version of Luke ever, Dark Side Luke. Again, he didn't look quite the same in the comic as he did on the covers. I always like the blue. I don't think that's on any of his covers, but I do like all the blue stripes on his arms. And there he is with his red lightsaber. In the second series of Dark Empire, he has that same outfit, but with the green lightsaber back. And there's an example of it. Here it is. The green lightsaber, good guy Luke versus bad guy Clone Emperor with the blue lightsaber. And then, of course, that holocron that was on the handbook cover image with the hologram coming out of that character whose name I can never remember how to say. Ordos? I can't remember. Crimson Empire actually had a ton of, not a ton, but a pretty good amount of material. I hate that my Emperor's robe hood came back in that one because I don't want to open it to fix it. They did comic packs for Crimson Empire. A lot of this is stuff that I've shown before in previous videos. And then, of course, using that cover for the comic pack of Kurkanos, who they accidentally listed as Karnar Jax. I think they are bringing out the other one. I hope they actually swapped the names on purpose on that one. Now, one of the cool things about Crimson Empire is it actually was the precursor to the Yuuzhan Vong New Jedi Order series of books. There was the first image of Nam Anor, the Yuuzhan Vong guy who, scoped out the Star Wars galaxy before bringing in the rest of the army. That's important because they just showed him in shadow. They were just previewing a new character who was going to become a bigger deal later on. Of course, the Yuuzhan Vong War was a 3-year war in the continuity of the expanded universe, or Legends, as you like to say. So that was a neat connection to two different series that aren't connected. But I do wanted to show that off, not just because it's part of Dark Empire. It really doesn't have anything to do with Dave Dorman. I just like how connected it is. So I can't help bring that Nam Anor figure down. I love that guy. Anyways, it does segue into what I want to talk about next, which was issue 0, which is basically like the more later on. They didn't do handbooks. They just did issue 0 of Star Wars Invasion, which was a companion piece to the New Jedi Order. It's an original story, does not retell the books, but there he is. Dave Dorman has captured. This is one of my favorite images of the Yuuzhan Vong. It's just amazing. But he didn't do any rest of the series. He did a variant for one of the later on miniseries. I don't have that. I don't do variants that often. He did do a pretty decent job at covers for the Revenge of the Sith series. I mean, that's a great image of Obi-Wan. He looks like he fell out of the movie there. Same thing with the other, Mace Windu and the Wookiees and the battle droids. And then a really great conclusion. I mean, that burnt up robe is just amazing. A couple, individual issues, things that he did, covers, for single issues that, variant covers, things like that. This is one of my favorites, Star Wars Tales #3. This is just an amazing image of Jar Jar Binks. I love just everything about this. I mean, he just captures the characters visually as well as the characterization extremely well. Very, very well done. I'm never not impressed. After seeing so many things that he's done, I'm always just like, wow, that is that character. That's perfect. That's what my brain thinks of. It's almost like the Batman animated series, the Bruce Timm versions of characters, or what I think of when I think about those characters, Batman, Joker, etc. Before they stopped doing Dark Horse comics, Dave Dorman did some stuff. He worked from the beginning of Dark Horse Star Wars to the very end. But one of the last things he did was covers for Darth Maul Death Sentence. I mean, how perfect does that look? First of all, the art is phenomenal. Those eyes are insane. They even look wet. And the grin is just so, it just shows you how unhinged this character can be. And if you know Darth Maul post Phantom Menace, he's the most unhinged character, I think, of them all. There is Darth Maul with his robot legs and Savage Opress. Poor Savage doesn't get to last as long as Darth Maul. No, I think he's in Carbonite there. I'm mixing it up with the Clone Wars episodes that came out just after this. And then there they are, the two of them again. Again, tackling an iconic character. That is pretty much it for the Dave Dorman stuff. It's unarguable that he captured basically the look of Star Wars in the 90s. We still had a lot of Ralph McQuarrie stuff coming out, which was good too. But like I said, I sort of think of them as equal. Ralph McQuarrie sort of shaped the look of Star Wars for the movies, and Dave Dorman sort of shaped the look of Star Wars beyond the movies and gave us other characters, other worlds, other aliens, other concepts, other ships in which to think about, and a visual representation of those, which was really important in the 90s because that was a pre-internet era. You couldn't just go see these images, look them up. You had to go buy these. That's actually why I have them, is because I bought them or visited them in Walden Books at the time and looked at them over and over again, just like I did with Star Trek books, Dungeons and Dragons art books, all sorts of things like that. So I think he's on that level with all those artists. Thank you for letting me ramble on about one of my favorite artists. I hope that you enjoy any of these stories. They're great, even though he just does the covers. The stories that are contained in each one are just as rich and full of color as the covers that Dave Dorman has done. Again, I hope everyone's enjoying their May the 4th, their Star Wars Day. Do something fun, play a Star Wars video game, watch a Star Wars short. I did Star Wars Visions: The Duel to start off my day from last year, a great, great short. Or read a book or read a comic book. There's lots of great Star Wars stuff to choose from. Again, thank you so much. This has been Universe Expanding Books and Toys. Remember that the 4th will be with you always.